So this is a short video on the subject of creating compelling characters. How do we create great characters for animation? And this is something that storyboard artists and animators alike have to think about, especially storyboard artists, because as a storyboard artist, you are both drawing the characters in the board, you're thinking about their character, you have to be an artist and a writer, and we need to create characters that are interesting and fun to watch. So how do we do this? Now, the first thing we've got to do is try to avoid cliche. So in everything we do, whether it's animation, story, design, concept design, you've got to try and avoid cliche. This isn't as easy as it sounds. There's a photo of the great actor Konstantin Stanislavski. He wrote a brilliant book called The Actor Prepares, which I highly recommend. And he says cliche will fill up every spot which is not already solid with living feeling. In other words, if you're not feeling it, if it's not coming from the heart, the chances are it's going to be a cliche. The cliche is usually the thing that comes to our brains the first, because it's the most familiar. But you need to dig deeper and find stuff which is interesting. So we need to avoid cliches. Here's a stereotypical fighting Irishman, stereotypical Frenchman, stereotypical German. We need to find ways of doing these things that are more fun. If you look at some of the old Warner Brothers characters from the 1940s, these were kind of stereotypes. Pepe Le Pew is a stereotype of a French lover, but reinvented as a skunk. And the funny thing about this character, of course, is that he's completely oblivious of the fact that the cat isn't interested in him at all. So it's a stereotype, but it's reimagined in a funny and interesting way. Mary Poppins, stereotypical English nanny, but she can fly, and she can do all kinds of bizarre and amazing stuff. So she's in a reinvention of a stereotype. Mr. Incredible is a stereotypical superhero, but with an interesting spin on it. He's grown fat and middle-aged. Pixar are particularly good at reimagining characters and making them interesting and fun. Now, an archetype is something slightly different from a stereotype. An archetype is, here's a dictionary definition, the original pattern or model from which all things of the same kind, are copied. So it's a kind of prototype. So these are the essences of characters. Archetypes, if you like, are the building blocks of characters. They can easily become stereotypes, but hopefully, if we handle them well, they won't. Here's an archetype from Star Wars: the sage, the wise character. Here's the protagonist or the young hero. Here's the bad guy or the antagonist. So these are characters that crop up all the time in films. Now, when you're creating characters, it really helps to write their story, to write as much as you can about them, so that you really get into their heads. Where does the character come from? Where are they from? Are they from a palace? Do they grow up in a hovel? Talk about these characters. Where do they live? So the more you can write about these characters, the more interesting they become. It doesn't mean you need to write a list of characteristics such as likes custard creams or enjoys going to the movies, but the more we find out about them, the more interesting they're going to be. Your character should have a history. We want to know what's happened to them, what made them who they are. And this is what good actors will do. They want to know their character's story, because we want to create characters, especially for TV series, where the audience has certain expectations of them, that the audience will know how they will behave, how they will react in any given situation. As an animator or as a storyboard artist, you need to know how your characters will behave, how they will react, what kind of stuff that they will do given a certain situation. So characters have flaws, they have strengths, they have weaknesses, and these flaws especially can reveal the human side of a character. The characters, the Pooh Bear characters created by A.A. Milne and popularized by Disney are really good examples of this. They have flaws. We all know that Pooh Bear is really, really greedy. We all know that Piglet is really, really anxious. We all know that Eeyore is really, really depressed, and we're all a bit Eeyore-ish every now and again. Some of us are Eeyores, but most of us have a little bit of Eeyore in us at certain times. Think about the Pixar characters, Mr. Incredible. His flaw is that he's got fat and middle-aged, as everybody does. You also want to think about character motivation. What do characters want? What are they actually interested in? If you think about the great classic Warner Brothers characters, think about what Sylvester wants. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. He wants to eat the bird. So it is with the coyote and Pepe Le Pew. I think it's pretty clear what he's after there as well. And reinvention of these simple characters was Scrat from Ice Age. All he wants is the nut. But you think about how successful this character is, how much people love this character. It's really, really simple, but works on a really basic and clear level. If you're thinking in terms of movies, features, was thinking about obstacles. What does the hero want? What stops him from getting it? And what happens if he doesn't get it? Really, really bad stuff. Does he want to save the universe? No, he doesn't. He just wants to get off his boring planet and go and do something fun, and his parents won't let him. But then stuff happens, and then suddenly he finds himself doing things that he doesn't necessarily want to do. You often find with villains and bad guys that they want the same thing that the hero does. Maybe in this case to be the king, and that can conflict with the hero's desires. In this case, blocking the hero's goal. If you think about what the queen wants in Snow White, she wants to be the fairest in the land, which is a pretty bizarre thing to want, really, but it works for the film. What does Dr. Evil want? He wants $1 million. What do Buzz and Woody want? Woody wants to be Andy's favorite toy, and they get into conflict over this. So conflict between the main characters can drive a lot of the drama, both in a movie and in a TV series. Frodo and Gollum from The Lord of the Rings, again, conflicting over what they want to do. Lots of characters are based on what-if concepts. Toy Story is a famous one. What if the toys came alive when the humans left the room? And the character of Buzz Lightyear is also a what-if. What if a toy spaceman actually thought that he was a real spaceman? What if these little green guys inside a fairground attraction were actually members of a gigantic cult? A brilliant concept, very, very inventive and funny. What if an elephant could fly? If you also look at great characters, you'll find that they tend to have a great voice. This really, really helps. Characters like Bugs Bunny have a fantastic voice. When I was a kid in the playground, we'd all do imitations of the Looney Tunes characters. Woody Woodpecker's laugh, or Porky Pig's lisp, that kind of thing. When it comes to animation, you always find that the voice talent comes first. The voice actor does their recording, then comes the animation afterwards. As a storyboard artist, you work with the voice will inform the way you're boarding the storyboards and help you interpret the boards. A great character voice can really help lift everything. Some characters even have their own music. Think of Darth Vader. He comes with his own orchestra. It's also done in The Lord of the Rings. The Hobbits have their own theme tune. The elves have theirs. All the different characters have their own kind of musical background. Introducing characters is also incredibly important. In Hollywood, they call this the meet cute. So when you meet a character for the first time, it's done in an interesting or cute way. Again, think about Pixar. They do this in brilliant ways. Think about the introduction of Buzz Lightyear on Andy's bed in Andy's room. Incredibly well done. Think about the introduction of Emperor Zurg at the end of Toy Story 2. And introducing new characters like Spanish Buzz, who's essentially an old character who gets reintroduced, or kind of he gets reprogrammed in this case. So it's like a spin, or a reinvention of an existing character. Think about the introduction of a character like Ken from Toy Story 3, introduced in a really inventive and clever and funny way. So, in summary, creating great characters involves, first of all, avoiding cliches and stereotypes, but embracing archetypes. What's the foundation of the character? What's their central essence? Do write a backstory, or if you're storyboarding something, find the backstory. You know, who are these characters? Really understand them and how they would behave. You want to know their flaws and hang-ups. What are their weaknesses? This is what makes them human. And you want to know what their motivation is. What do they want? What are they hoping to get? Ideally, you have a unique voice. You have a great introduction of these characters, and also hopefully some conflict with some of the other characters in the drama. If you're going to create some characters, you want to start thinking, who are these characters? What do they look like? What do they do? What do they want? What makes them angry or upset? And what stands in their way? One quick and simple way into this, an exercise, is to imagine the first pet you had when you were a kid, and now imagine that your pet has superpowers. That these are superpowers that you don't know about. These are secret powers. And now you have to imagine 4 or 5 friends that your pet has. What do they do together? Where do they hang out? What are they up to? And now try and imagine that as a TV series, as the foundation of a series. So you're creating a world based on these characters that you yourself know.